Thank you for joining us on Info Live TV, Devorah. Tell us, what's been your experience of these Katyusha rockets?
Well, up to now, from the first day, actually, when they started, it's 16 days ago, they tell me today, we had rockets falling all around us. We are very close to some army camps, and we also have the airfield near Rosh Pina. But I don't know whether really these things are directed anything, because, I mean, they're never direct hits. Yeah, they fall, unfortunately for us, up to now, they fall in open fields. Sometimes it's been 2 days running, a few days break, and then start again. And up to now, it means that the younger kids are sleeping in the shelter still, because nobody would dare wander around in the evening when you suddenly can get a fall of rockets. All the older kids are occupied in a sort of bunker where they have all sorts of activities during the day for them. And then when they go back home, they obviously stay somewhere near what they call, either they have a room which is specially made like a sort of shelter, or they stay near a shelter.
Now, have you, has Kibbutz Amiad had direct hit from Katyusha rockets?
We've had falling in our fields. Of course, we have fires that break out. In fact, a great deal of our pasture land, we have cattle, meat cattle,
right,
has been ruined as a result. Fortunately, no direct hits on houses, and no people have been hurt.
I see.
We have been fortunate from that point of view.
Now,
yes.
now, Devorah, have you stayed on the kibbutz? What have you done?
Well, I've stayed, but at the moment, because of my family coming from the States, and obviously we didn't want them to come up north, because they have 3 young children, I went off to be with them in the Tel Aviv area, and I was near Zichron area for a few days. But what happens is that, for instance, the library that I run happens to be an underground. It also can be used as a shelter.
I see.
And we've let it over to all the kids to have activities there. Children, by the way, have been invited to Kibbutz Soba in the Jerusalem corridor, invited the 6 to 12-year-olds for a week. This week, the older kids have been invited to Moshav Habonim, which is quite near to Zichron area, for a few days' respite. And you do have families of very young children who've got parents and cousins and so forth living in the center, have moved out for a week or two. Their husbands have come back to work, and quite a few of the mothers have stayed away with younger children.
I see. Now, we're joined on the live now by Devorah Beth. She's up in Kibbutz Amiad now. Info Live TV having this extended live broadcast now about the situation. Now, Devorah, tell us, what's the atmosphere like in the north now? Are people frightened? Are they scared? What's the resilience factor?
Go, I'll tell you. Raymond, I'm on a bloody bunker, so I'll lock the door from the outside.
Hello?
Take that one. Okay, I'm sorry, their fans are just going out. Okay, sorry, you have to repeat that again.
Okay, no problem. Asking you there, Devorah, about the resilience of the residents in the north of Israel. Tell us more about that. Are people frightened? What's the atmosphere?
People are frightened. Listen, I think it would be unnatural if people weren't. Let's see, they're being cautious, yes, and nobody goes out into the open fields if they don't have to. Although you have people, they're picking mangoes at the moment, they're picking lychees at the moment. You have to feed the animals. Yeah, there's certain jobs that have to be done. Unfortunately, it's not the first time this has happened for us. It's the sixth war at least that many of us have taken part in. Although the last time that we were actually physically affected, like it's a case that the kibbutz was hit by Syrian rockets and so forth, was in the 6-day war. But people are going about their business, and people have gone back. The factory's gone back to work. Most people have come back to work there. And in the farming, there's nothing going. It has to carry on. Again, people are not taking unnecessary risks. As I say, people with young kids have moved out to the centre of the country if they've got somewhere to go.
I see.
And even some, though, if they have very important jobs, because often the mothers have jobs which are, management jobs, then they've come back, and the kids know that they have to be in the shelters at night in order to avoid any danger.
Now tell us, Devorah. Now we're speaking to you from Jerusalem, and we kind of hear bits and pieces. We hear the statistics, how many rockets fall here, how many rockets fall there. What sort of noises do you hear up there, being in the north?
Well, first of all, a lot of people got scared at the beginning because they couldn't differentiate between guns being fired by our artillery towards the north and the actual boom that you get when a rocket falls. After a while, unfortunately, you get to know the difference. And you do hear, and you have planes going over all the time, of course. You know, that it becomes a part of the sounds that you almost get used to. Not nice to say, but after a few days, you almost get used to this sort of situation. Although I think there is a limit to how long people in the north, in many places, have had it much worse than we have.
Right.
Svat, Carmiel, Haifa. How long one has to expect the citizens to withstand this sort of bombardment? And we try and compare ourselves to England. I remember the Blitz as a young child. And I would not wish it on anybody to have to spend, years in this sort of situation. We only have to hope that some agreement can come to where peace can be restored.
Okay, now, Devorah, one final question for you. The military operation in full swing, and the cabinet meeting this morning, the Prime Minister announcing that the military operation is not going to widen as many people thought it would. Tell us a little bit about what the population in the north, if you can, think about the government's handling of the situation. Do you feel protected? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think everyone was fairly optimistic at the beginning because maybe we're used to fast victories, that, everything would be over relatively fast. I don't think anyone, I don't know to what extent there's any government or people involved in the military side, understood to what extent they have built and built and built and built all these bunkers and building up all this tremendous machinery to attack Israel, because they weren't going to do it just for nothing. I mean, it was like the Syrian on the Golan Heights, up to Six-Day War. What had they done there all the years? They hadn't settled the land. They hadn't built farms. They hadn't built villages. They just built more and more and more bunkers to eventually attack. And who were they going to attack? They were only going to attack Israel. I mean, it was just one day that... and unfortunately, the world had just stood by and just let this happen. And I hear that now it's not so easy to get an international force that might be able to be put there in order to serve as a buffer zone in the north.